So do you remember that time during gym class in elementary school where all the cool kids would get together in a clump and they would just all form this like dodgeball team and everyone else would just kind of be sidelined? Welcome to that in adulthood in Final Fantasy XIV's newest relic quest. While I might be saying that as a joke in the intro, it's not actually that far from the truth anymore. So hey there and welcome to my channel. And this video is actually going to be unscripted because based on just feedback from people who I've talked to, just friends and some members of the community in Discord. A video like this is probably best delivered raw rather than scripted, and this is going to not be a comprehensive video about everything we know about the relic weapon, because that is originally what this video was going to be. And then I realized that this actually really bothered me and I want to speak up on my issues rather than just be completely silent on them, because I think that this is something that's really going to dampen the experience for not just me but a lot of other people. And so if this seems a little off the cuff or something like that, I'm really sorry. And I want to say that this video is made out of love. I have done all of the relic quests for like A Realm Reborn, Heaven's Ward, Shadowbringers, Stormblood. My brain immediately skips that one. Ugh. But basically, we have a few issues with this that I really want to talk about. And likewise, I am going to try and go back in time once I post this and do timestamps. But for now, I'm just going to save my feelings on this. So first thing is critical engagements are going to be something that you try and get to happen, and these are very important because you have things that are basically like NMs, which are the skirmishes. So if you've ever done Eureka, you know that NMs are notorious monsters and that they're basically fates on the map that are just giant bosses that you try and spawn by killing enemies. You kill the enemies, then it spawns, and then you knock it down, and then you get a whole bunch of points for doing that, or whatever they will be in this expansion, which they're calling it metal, but same kind of idea basically here. But what happens is that they have another thing called critical engagements, which is going to be like another level of it, which is going to be more challenging content, which has been drawn parallels to something like an Alliance raid boss or like an end boss of like a dungeon or something like that. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get something that might be sometimes even a little harder than that. Which, does that alone sound cool? Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that that's really cool. But now we need to start filling in some of the context. One of these instances in what is called the Bozjan Southern Front actually only has a limit of 72 people. So that is actually down from Eureka's numbers. And so this, I think, could actually be a really good thing, because that means instead of having mega instances that never really fill up at like non-peak times, like say that you're on a North American server like me, like you're not going to have the limit of the instance filled basically at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm recording this actually. But what you're going to have is like maybe you'll get half of it. But so I like the idea of it being reduced in size. That's not my issue. But why I'm bringing up 72 people is because these critical engagements have been stated to be between 24 to 48 players. Hold the phone on that, because I have literally waited multiple days to see, could I wrap my head around it? Could I talk to someone who would make my perspective on this change? And so far, not really. I will get into some of the other arguments, but I'm really severely worried about this. So, like the instance at the start, or the joke at the start implied, is it's just like gym class in elementary school where all the cool kids are going to get together and then they're going to form their little teams, and then the gym teacher's like, oh, well, you know what, you're going to just have to sit on the sidelines, and then meanwhile they duke it out and whatever happens happens. It sucks to spectate. It sucks, and it's just like, and I mean, in before the memes, I mean I have body built for years, although that goes into a little bit of details about my ex and that, but oh, we're not going down there. But it's just like, how to say it? It's just reminding me of those really nasty situations where it's just like, oh great, watch me just watch someone else play. It's just like, it's one thing that I really like about gaming is it's just like everyone can get involved. This is more of an open experience for everyone, and I think that that is fantastic. But what I've noticed is things like take the Ishgardian Restoration and how you have achievements or titles awarded for the top 12 crafters, and then you have the rest to like 100. I think it's 100. I'm going off the top of my head. I haven't actually reviewed that. But the premise still stands that we are making content that is a little less forgiving, and I definitely feel that this is a lot less forgiving. And I mean, yeah, you could argue Eureka was less forgiving, like if you died you'd lose experience, but I'm meaning less forgiving in that it's becoming more exclusive in ways that you might not fully have control over. Like if you're looking to get on the top, what is it, like 1 to 12 crafters on a big server like Cactor or Gilgamesh, are you kidding me? You better not be like really too worried about this or that, and you better really focus down, because otherwise someone's gonna blow right past you, at least in my experience. Like I tried that a little bit and I just got blown out of the water. It was kind of lame. But what I'm trying to say here is, getting back to the point, is that I think that this is an attempt maybe to make content maybe more punishing. This is something that was brought up to me, because I think that one of the things that you hear some echoes of in the back of the community is, oh, Final Fantasy XIV is very forgiving, it's maybe too inclusive, it's maybe not enough hard decision making or permanence. And this is something that you're also hearing in the World of Warcraft community, which I think, I mean, if I started to cover World of Warcraft, I'd definitely make a video on this topic, which is just like, people want more punishing systems, they want more rigid decision making, yet they are complaining about covenants. But cycling it, focusing it on the relic, this I think is exclusive at the cost of punishing genuinely interested people. Because if you have an instance of 72 people, and then there's this big critical engagement, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, I want to get into this critical engagement. Now, all of a sudden, if you're not one of the lucky few that are selected to be in this, in the wise words of my elders, you are screwed. And there's nothing you can do about it, because it's just like, if the cap's 24, and you're not one of the 24 people selected, well, too bad on you. And they did bring up during the video that there are things that can increase your chances, like if you're participating or if you have actions. And those two things kind of have downsides to it. Obviously, you want someone in that can actually do it. Like, you want someone who has the actions. So actions are, and this is going to be another thing that I talked about, actions are good because they allow you to basically augment your character's abilities. I think that that's a cool system. I liked aspects of it, not all of it, as I'll get into a bit, but I liked a lot of the things with Logo's system. And just as a quick recap for anyone that doesn't know, you could get various buffs, heal spells, revives, or whatever. You can even get a death spell that has a not zero chance of proccing. I remember that we were killing crystalline scorpions or something like that. The exact name escapes me. And basically, I remember all of us would bring like the death spell and just spam it whenever we could. It has a pretty long cooldown. But basically, it allows you to have a lot of spells. And of course, if you want someone to actually go in there that has the ability, that can actually do the content with it. So the other part of it, which is something that I have talked to people about and fully agreed with, is that we had a huge problem with NM trains in Eureka, with people just going AFK and then finally hitting the boss when it finally spawned. That was a huge issue. We called them NM trains, and I remember that there were plenty of people that would just stand outside of the boss's AoE circles or radius or away from the mobs that could aggro them, and basically they just cheer, jump, or whatever, or eventually after a few weeks they didn't even do that. They didn't even cheer, jump. But it was a huge issue. And so likewise, do you want someone to have a higher chance of getting in if they participated? Absolutely. And I also do think that it is a clever system if you're looking to get people out from just AFKing. Absolutely, I think that is a wise decision. But the fault of this lies in the first few months of this, or first month at least, I suspect, when people are first blowing through the content, me especially, before I'm done getting all my weapons. I don't think that there will be that many people AFK. I really don't. I think that Eureka really was kind of, I don't want to say magical at first, because it wasn't. It definitely had a lot of issues, but there were a lot more people that were actively engaged with it when it was brand new and fresh. And so when I see something like a limit of 72 people that you can only squish 24 people in, I'm immediately worried, and it just seems like such a low number to me. That, and yeah, I get that there's 48 too, but it's like, during the first month you're really going to tell me that we're going to have 30 or more people AFK? Or I guess slightly less than 30, like 20 or more people AFK. Maybe, but I don't really see that. I see this resulting in a lot of hurt feelings, and as I said before, just like sitting on the sidelines watching other people do the content, this comes into the question of, does everyone in the instance get the reward? Because I can tell you that during Eureka, if you weren't actually like hitting the boss, like let's say that you're just standing like AFK in the spawn of like Eureka Animos, and that the entire group killed the dragon, name escapes me, you wouldn't get the dragon minion in your inventory. You'd actually have to participate in that. And so likewise, if with these critical engagements, I do not believe, and this is purely speculation of course, that everyone in the instance will get awarded metal if they aren't participating, or that they won't be awarded titles for not participating, or achievements, or progress towards an achievement. Like let's say that there's an achievement that says kill 100 or kill 1,000 of these bosses. You won't be making progress through doing these critical engagements unless you're actively participating. Again, all speculation, but the fact of the matter is, this halts in your tracks any progression, and I think that that is immediately a huge bummer. That's not even getting into the loot, because it's just like, if you think about it, let's say that there is a critical engagement that only takes 24 people, so we're talking about the low number. And let's say that this has a 1 in 50 chance, so we're talking like a 2% drop rate for a particular little minion. And let's say that it's the cutest minion. Let's say that it is literally like another dog that we don't have in the game, or like a really cute cat or something like that, and that everyone wants this minion. This is like the premium, the luxe minion. Like everyone wants this minion, and now all of a sudden, and let's say that you're going at this boss and you're just whacking like all these minions trying to get this one to spawn. You're just like, we just gotta keep grinding, guys. Maybe 50 more, maybe 100 more, and then you have people chatting and shout chat saying, oh my god, it feels like we've been here forever. And I mean, if it's following the same patterns as Eureka, which is what I'm currently thinking it is going to, it will take a while to spawn sometimes. Absolutely. I remember grinding those mobs and being so bored trying to spawn stuff. But let's say that you're doing all that. Now it pops. Now you have the whole 4-step process to get in there, like basically queuing in. But now RNG is not in your favor, and you are not one of the 24 people selected. That sucks. That really sucks. Like, 24 multiplied by 3, so you have 48, and then 48, 52, 72. Yeah, so that works out to about 1/3 of the instance. I'm so ashamed. I'm not even going to edit that out. Sorry, my math is really bad. I am super tired right now. But basically what you have in this instance is only 1/3 of it even gets to participate. Now we get into the question of, do they even clear it? And that's the scarier question that I don't think enough people are asking, because if these are truly challenging, like if these are at the same difficulty as like an Alliance raid, especially during the first few months, I see people wiping, because remember that we are all going to be level synced and item level synced. And remember that people are going to be taking up classes that they might not be super intimately familiar with into this instances to level them up, because it has been proposed to be an alternative leveling strategy. So we have everyone at the same level of character with the same skills, same blah blah blah, But what you have is an incredible difference between one player to another in what they can actually do with the class. Like, let's say that there was a brand new class, because unfortunately I have leveled everything up, unfortunately. But let's say that there was a new one called, what would I even call it? Let's say that it's like a summoner tank with like a summon that they can like use the tank, like something really crazy, like Brood Warden or something like that. And this Brood Warden class I have never done. I don't know its rotations. I don't know anything. The combos are totally off. I don't know how to maneuver the summon. I'm garbage. Like I have no idea what I'm doing. And likewise, of course I'm gonna be, because I've been garbage with pretty much every class when I first started it. Like I'm envious of like these new people that I see join that are just like picking things up like I can't do that. I haven't done that, but I digress. You're gonna have people that are gonna struggle really hard, and so what you're gonna see in this is you're gonna see wipes. You're gonna see people lose. Like, let's say that someone has never leveled a healer before and that they just want to take a healer into this instance, and let's say that they are one of the healers selected to go into this, which I'm assuming that there would be some algorithm behind the scenes to make sure that you have X number of healers, Y number of tanks, and Z number of DPS. I'd be shocked if there wasn't. But let's say that they're one of the X number of healers. They don't know. They might not even have their toolbar fully set up, like their tooltips with their skills and everything. Their user interface might be completely botched. Like, they don't know what the fairy even does. They don't have the fairy gauge up, and they're on Scholar, and everyone's like, why is this healer not healing me? And I mean, it puts them in an unfair situation, and it puts everyone else in an unfair situation where everyone loses. Because that player, how can they be expected to know everything about the Scholar? That's not the easiest healer at all. Like, in fact, I wouldn't say healing in general in this game is that easy in highest level content. But also on everyone else, that's not fair, because it's like they're just like, darn dude, we expected like someone to help heal us through this because this is like super important and we were lucky enough to get in. And so you're gonna see times when things are just complete failures. And likewise, the disappointment at seeing that wipe is even larger as a spectator. I mean, yeah, there's going to be some people that get the Schadenfreude. I apologize, I struggled to pronounce that. But basically, they're going to like get really happy at the failure and be like, haha, you didn't get in, and you didn't get it either, haha. I mean, haha, you got in and you didn't get it, haha. But it's just like, most other people are going to be like, great, I wasn't even selected, and great, you didn't even clear it. And probably wince in complete horror, if I'm being super honest. But another thing is, I can only presume that while I'm thinking that metal might be an individual thing, I think that the access to get into the castrum, so like the end stronghold of this particular Bozjan Southern Front, is that you have like the entire group collect metal, and then you're all forwarding the effort to get there. But of course, rewards are going to be different, contributions are going to be different, and likewise, points probably to get gear, because remember that all of the Eureka stages had like Pyros crystals that you would use in exchange to get your relic basically leveled up. And so without the Pyros crystals, or whatever they will be, Bozjan Southern Front crystals, you're not going to be able to advance your weapon. So it's just like, so what if we got to the end thing? It's just like Baldassian Arsenal 2.0, kind of. Actually, maybe more so than less. But basically, it's like, it sucks from all fronts seeing someone else get in and this content being so exclusive. And likewise, this gets into the other part, these actions. And so I am seeing a system that looks completely like the logo system, at least on the surface level. Like, of course, I don't know for a fact, obviously, but we basically collect these fragments and get these lost magic abilities. Okay, sweet. So it's basically like a logo system where we can get heals, we can get different buffs and that. Fantastic. But the issue with this is that if it is like Logos actions, you can sell the components that make up those actions on the market board, as well as these can sometimes be very grindy to unlock. And the abilities, some of them are stunningly powerful with Logos actions, and others are very underwhelming to say the least. And usually, in my opinion, the strongest actions are hidden behind the rarest and most expensive components, likewise rarity, supply and demand, and likewise you're probably going to need a few of them for the strongest actions. And these strongest actions, likewise, are going to have a dramatic impact on your ability to contribute to these raids. And likewise, we already said that at this point we have been told in the live ladder that your percentage chance of getting in is based on if you have an action or not. And I can tell you that through Eureka, through getting both the Scholar and the Summoner books, that I didn't have an action on for probably 95% of it. I'm just being flat out honest. I mean, maybe that's a bad thing, maybe that's not the best thing to admit, but honestly, I didn't need them. I just saw them as a expensive time sink. I would leave the instance frequently to do things like hunts or FC meetups at the house or this or that, but it was just not something that I invested in. And I have more gil than a lot of newer players. I think that, heck, honestly, a lot of newer players that I know are lucky if they hit around 100k. So what we've already done, based on, or at least what I'm speculating, is that we have formed already a system where if you're a newer player trying to get into this, now you are going through a revolving door of, oh, you don't have enough gil to buy the actions? Well, now you're not going to get into these events. Well, you don't have enough gil for these? Well, you're not going to. And likewise, if you are able to sell them like you were the Logos actions components, this is going to lead to a pretty big disparity between the haves and the have-nots. And I mean, I cringe in using that to describe a video game mechanic, but let's be honest, that is exactly what this is. Me, I can buy out the market board for whatever components I want, and if Gilgamesh doesn't have it, I'll just go to Fairy or Cactar and raid that market board basically for all of them and get them. But to a newer player, either they grind them out, they're given it, or basically they don't have the actions. And likewise, I would be very surprised if all it was a true or false boolean on if someone gets into a particular event. Or what I'm going to get into next is the 1v1 me bro critical engagement. I just have so many worries about this, because it's just like, and for the record, I should have prefaced this in the video, is that yes, you can achieve things outside of the instance. Okay, you can finish the weapon outside. Fantastic. But at the same point of time, this is content added to the game that should be accessible to everyone. And do I think it is technically accessible? Absolutely. But at the same point of time, know that a lot of people are waiting for this, and so when I hear things like, oh, we're going back to the Logos system, I immediately think of all of its failings. And then when I look at the NM system, I'm like, okay, I then see its failings, and then I look at this critical engagement, and I'm like, oh, this is getting a little exclusive for me, or a little bit too exclusive for my tastes. And I mean, it's just feeling really weird, because I mean, yeah, if you can complete the weapon outside of the instance, fantastic. I'm probably going to be doing that for a few weapons, no doubt. But when it's fresh and new, I want to go in there, I want to do things. And especially because I figure probably most likely is that there's going to be exclusive loot from here. There's going to be things like housing items, there's going to be things like minions, there's going to be things like probably titles, achievements, there's going to be a storyline in here. Like, there might be special armor pieces. There was chocobo barding. Like, I think that the Eureka Animos gave Red Mage chocobo barding from Eureka Animos. Like, there's going to be a whole host of different things in here that makes you want to engage in the content. And so I think just to waft off this as just being like, oh, well, you don't need to do it. I mean, technically I don't need to do it. Technically I don't need any of these relic weapons. Technically I can completely skip it. It's just like, the raid weapons what, item level 505? Why would I even need to do any of this? And I mean, many raiders do say that. I mean, for a lot of people, relic content isn't their jam. And that's totally fine. That's one of the beautiful things about this game, honestly, is you participate in what you want to, and yeah. But I think that taking that view stance kind of downplays everything, honestly. It's just like, yeah, you don't need to participate in Savage Raiding. Yeah, you don't need to grind out tombstones every week. Yeah, you don't need to do an alliance raid. Yeah, you don't need to do housing. Yeah, you don't need to do crafting. You don't need to do gathering. Yeah, you don't need to do gold saucer. Yeah, you don't need to do anything with the market board. Yeah, you don't need to join an FC. And likewise, the list goes on and on. You don't need to do any of it. Technically, you don't even need to log into the game. But it's just like, I think that when we start reducing that argument like that, that it starts to show that it's just like not the best argument to have, because it's like, technically we could reduce until the login thing. But basically, I just feel very concerned already, because it's just like, another thing is, it's just like, I don't know if fundamentally we're going back into mob grinder, and that is essentially what Eureka basically turned into. Is it was just like, you would join a party for an NM train, you would go around with the train, basically zerg these mobs until an NM spawned, kill the NM, get all of these crystals, yay, and then rinse and repeat for weeks. I don't know if my heart can take too much of that. I think that I can make it through 1 or 2 or maybe 3 weapons, but then again, I was saying the same for Stormblood. Like Eureka Animos, I actually did a lot of weapons. I think I did something like 7 or 8 weapons, something crazy like that. But how many weapons did I finish? 2. I gave up on the rest because I just could not continue to subject myself to that. And I use the word subject. I mean, is it the worst thing? No, but at the same point in time, I totally have no interest to go into that content. And so it's just like, I look back at this and I'm like, are we going back into like grinds? And I'm like, ooh, please no. The things that I'm hearing that sound promising is that apparently we're level synced. And this gets into some things about, well, do we have an elemental level? Do we have an elemental wheel? I mean, if we're looking back at Eureka as the frame of reference, which is the past content, I'm just a little hesitant. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little worried about this on its own, but coupled with all the rest, it's just like another thing, another strategy that I expect to happen is, because let's say that this algorithm for picking people, we know you need to contribute and you need to have an action, but they said something about the party leader needs to queue someone in, or like the party in. So let's take the instance where we have 24 people, and so that is going to be a grand total of, what would that be, 3 of these 8-player groups. So you have 3 groups, all coordinate and have every single person with an action, and every single person is going to also be contributing. Let's say that they all do, and let's say that they have a quote-unquote ideal composition. Let's say they have 2 tanks, 2 healers, 4 DPS, and so that's taking into account that the algorithm wants X healers, Y tanks, Z DPS. But what you have is, in my opinion, stacking the odds. Maybe, again, I don't know that algorithm, but to me it sounds like if there's a 24-person critical engagement and you have 3 parties all set up, they're gonna get in. Like, I can already tell you that for the first day, at least, I'm planning to have a group of people, and if I need to hand other people guild to buy the actions so that they have actions so I have a chance to get into these, I will. Likewise, I'm not going to be the only one saying that. I know plenty of people that are doing that, and that does not make me a bad person or playing the system to do that. It's just like, I just want to get into the critical engagement, and literally they have told us that's the best way to get in. But you're going to also have other people that are also like, hey, I'm going to, let's say that someone has like, I've actually seen it, so it's not that far of the question. Let's say every retainer has 999.999999 million gil. And so to them, throwing like a million gil to make sure that their party all has the best action so that they can get into the critical engagement, do you really think people won't do that? They'll do it. Absolutely. I definitely can even see myself throwing a few million if I need to in that. And so likewise, you have these stacked parties all set up to get in, and then use a solo queue. Like, again, this comes down to what does the algorithm pick and choose. What's your chance of getting in? Another flipped question could be, okay, what if you have a party of 8? Does that maybe even lower your chances because you have all of these separate solo queue? And is all of their chance on their own the same as your groups? But like, it comes to a balancing act. Well, what if you have gosh, I'm trying to think of perfect math. Okay, let's say that you just had what would it be? Oh god, I can't think of the example, but let's say that your group is maybe too big to fill. Like, let's say that the algorithm goes from player ID, all from top to bottom of player IDs, and then it goes RNG, ping, okay, RNG ping, okay, RNG ping, okay, like, and then your group's too big though. Like, let's say that we have currently 22 out of 24 spots taken up, but you're in a group of 3. Are you just passed over then? Yeah, these are questions that I'm sure that someone's going to figure out, probably on the Balance Discord or somewhere, or Theory Jerks. But it really is something that does... I think that we're coming to the point where now, with this content, it's getting a little bit exclusive, and now we need to start asking these questions. Because likewise, this also gets into the reverse argument, which is a good argument that I had with someone. Well, not an argument, but not even debate. I cringe at that. A good discussion that I had with someone else, which was like, okay, what if the rewards aren't good enough from these critical engagements? What if, let's say, all you want from the instance is to get that castrum open for everyone? Okay, then who would want to do a critical engagement? Who would want to put themselves to distress? Unless there were rewards that were worth actually taking. And so we could go back speculating, flip-flopping on that all day long, I'm sure. But the point is, until we know that there aren't rewards from it that are exclusive and worth going after, I'm going to assume that there are. Because likewise, content in this game has been very well rewarding in a lot of instances. And so I'm going to be a little bit hesitant to be like, oh yeah, 24 people, sweet. But it's just like, on the other hand, it's just like, I can tell you that if all you want is this final castrum to open, people are just going to AFK in the spawning zone. They're not even going to participate at all. And it's like, I'm not even trying to have a dramatic pause there. Like, that was... No one's going to participate, because it's just like, if the rewards aren't there for participating and then you're just waiting for everyone else to do the work, lo and behold, NM trains. But now, instead of participating in specifically that NM, now you know you're not going to be involved in that, or you have such a low probability for like a 24-man critical engagement to get in, that you're just like, meh, I'm just going to stay here because I'm probably not going to get in anyhow, meh. And while someone might say that's toxic, don't tell me for a fact that people aren't going to think that, because I can already tell you, just through talking to various other people who will absolutely remain unnamed, that they pretty much already told me that if the rewards aren't good enough, that why would they even leave the spawn unless the castrum is literally the biggest thing? Because it's just like, if it's only a 1/3 chance of getting in to this critical engagement that rewards you, And we have already been told, apparently, that the little mobs, the little outer world mobs, don't award metal, only skirmishes and critical engagements, apparently. Why would they grind them? For 1/3 chance to get in? No. And they, like, and this is this common sentiment that I've found, it's just like, why would I do that? Because it's just like a 33% chance? No, I have better things to do with my time. I can be crafting, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, that would be an interesting question. Do they enable crafting in the zone? Do they disable it? Well, then you're just going to have someone alt-tab and do Netflix. I mean, people do Praetorium. And sorry, context. Praetorium, for the record, is like an hour long of basically like cutscenes with very little fighting in it, and people often call it like the Netflix dungeon, and it does reward lots of poetics. It's really, really good. In fact, I've kind of been alt-tabbing, doing some coding and some content creation on the side, and that's basically how I've grinded out those little tomestones. And it's like, don't tell me that someone's not just going to tab in and out, move their character once every 5 minutes or so, or whack a mob if they add that extras thing once every 5 minutes, if movement isn't good enough. You're going to totally do it. It's something that the community, we've seen it with NM trains, we've seen it with Praetorium, we have seen it time and time again. And so, alternatively, if the rewards aren't worth it, no one's going to do it. Or, well, you're going to rely on a few people to do all the grinding. It's like, we have normal NM trains with skirmishes, then we have, like, these critical missions. It's like, people are just going to shrug and be like, okay. And I think that is really, really, really worrisome. I'm just... this video, I actually was thinking might be under 10 minutes long. Oh my god. But I hope that that kind of got everything out. Just to do a quick recap, I guess, my main concern is that actions are basically now required, because it's just like, you want the highest probability to get in. And likewise, if it's like the Logos actions with Eureka, people with a lot of gil are going to have a massive advantage, because it's like they're going to be able to get the best actions, and unless actions in the algorithm is a boolean yes or no, probably the stronger actions will be weighed more heavily. I guess obviously if it's not a boolean, it's going to be weighed, but it really becomes an instance where it's just like, okay, now the Gillionaires I just said that unironically, the Gillionaires are going to basically be able to get in and do whatever they want. And then another concern is just the limitation of the player size. Anyhow, that is all for this video. I am so sorry. I wanted this to actually be like a full Relic recap, but I couldn't do it. My heart was not in it. Now it can be though, because I just need to get this off my chest and like speak that like I'm super worried about this. And I mean, obviously can I skip the Relic? If you're super worried about it, if you're losing sleep, I mean, I'm not losing sleep, like, I get it. But like, I'm worried in like a video game sense. It's like something that I want to participate in, something that I participated in each and every single expansion, and have had multiple weapons from each, and it's like, I want to do it, and so I'm worried about that. Sorry, I know, but I just know someone in the comments is gonna be like, it's just a relic, don't even bother, it's not even the highest item level. I like the content. I like the glamour. Anyhow, that is all for this video. Thank you so much if you have somehow made it to the end of all this. You are super appreciated. Thank you so very much. Anyhow, I'm going to cut that off there. I am actually losing my voice. I have a pop right beside me, a root beer, and I have not had a single sip of it. And I want my root beer so bad. A&W root beer is so good. Oh my god. And no, I'm not sponsored. I wish. Oh my gosh, I'd have root beer floats every day, all day, every day. I would be in heaven. But I am losing my voice. I didn't realize this was this long. So take care and hope to catch you in the next video. Something more positive next time, promise.